Hey guys, what's up? It's Nate with a quick tip on working with offshore development teams. I've been working with offshore development teams for probably over 5 years, and when it first started out, I hated it. I wasn't mature enough as a leader, as a communicator, to really be able to take advantage of the resource, right? And one thing that I've learned throughout my personal life that's bled over into my professional life is the importance of communication, right? And also empathy in the sense of understanding where they're coming from, let's say culturally. In some cultures, asking questions, right, is not necessarily seen as acceptable. So one thing that I try and do is really to understand the team that I'm working with, but also to level set expectations in the sense of I would much rather you come back to me with questions on a spec or a requirement than to try and go off and kill yourself trying to work 24-hour days trying to figure out something that maybe was vague to begin with. So one thing that I challenge my development team in, and especially early on in the beginning, is we would set deadlines, but the deadlines were not to have new features built or to have something fixed. The deadline was review the spec that I sent you, review the requirement that I sent you, and I want to see your questions by Thursday. That's all I want. I just want you to look at it, send me your questions by this date, and we'll review it. And what that really helped was break down the barrier so that they felt okay to ask questions of me. But then also on my side, I had to be very, let's say, open-minded or willing to work with them through that process. So now we're at a point after years of working together where I can send over requirements, I can send over specifications, and I know if they don't understand something, they're going to ask me. But it didn't start off like that, right? We had to very intentionally bridge the gap between the assumptions that are oftentimes wrapped up in the way that we communicate with each other, here on this continent, and really trying to break something down into more atomic parts and send it to another continent, right? With a group that doesn't speak English as their first language and also doesn't live in our culture. So that was one thing that I found incredibly freeing, I think, for them, but also it really 10x'd the output, because now they feel okay to ask questions. Now they know how I'm going to respond. There's an open line of communication without any shame or disrespect going back and forth. So it's one thing that I would challenge anyone who's working with an offshore team, specifically just starting out. Really spend the most time up front working on communication and breaking down any pre-existing barriers that might be in place. One way to do it that I found incredibly helpful is to really focus on communication and asking questions. And then as the leader, as the project manager, as the product developer, you have to focus specifically on how you can more intentionally articulate your requirements, your specifications to that team, right? How can you answer their questions in a timely, more eloquent way, right? How can you break things down a little bit deeper? So just something to think about. Again, working with offshore teams, really focus on the communication aspect of it and set some initial early deadlines just to ask questions. And I think you'll find that really opens up the communication path and will really help you drive forward with those teams in exceptional ways. So try that out. Let me know how it works.